Orlando Brown just dropped a voice memo, and it's straight up disturbing. Creepy tone, cryptic message, and all signs point to one person, Diddy. Orlando's been off the rails before, but this feels calculated, and if what he's hinting at is even half true, it could be the final nail in Diddy's coffin. Orlando might be the unexpected key witness in the case that could finally take Diddy down for good. Now we all know Orlando's past, the Disney star turned internet meme, known more for his unfiltered rants than actual receipts. But what if we told you that some of the wild things he's been saying for years might actually be rooted in truth? And what if the industry knew it all along but just counted on his image being so wrecked, nobody would believe him? So what's got the internet buzzing is the fact that Orlando released a creepy voice memo that has people shook. The audio hints at everything from industry rituals to predatory behavior involving big names, and Diddy's name is all up in it. Now, to be clear, the memo itself hasn't been verified or confirmed by mainstream media, but that's not stopping the streets from talking. People are saying this. It's the same energy as when Jaguar Wright came out spilling industry secrets, except this time it's coming from someone who claims to have lived through it as a child star and who may have seen way more than any of us thought. Orlando has been calling out Diddy for years, saying he was coerced, manipulated, and even at the time most folks brushed it off. The interviews were chaotic, the delivery was erratic, and Orlando sadly had a rep for being unstable. But now, with Diddy facing multiple lawsuits, an actual federal investigation, and the walls closing in fast, suddenly Orlando's claims don't sound so random anymore. They sound like foreshadowing.
It was a night of great slip and slidedom.
And here's where it gets real. Behind the scenes, there are whispers that Orlando might be preparing to testify, not in a social media rant, but in a courtroom. If prosecutors are digging into Diddy's history and building a case, they're going to be looking for people who were there, who had firsthand experiences, and who've already gone public with claims. Orlando fits that profile too well. His past is messy, and he did make some outlandish statements. But if even some of what he's saying lines up with other testimonies or evidence, it's a wrap. The same man the world dismissed as crazy might actually be holding the truth, and this time people are finally listening. So the question becomes, is Orlando Brown about to flip the whole Diddy situation on its head? Is that creepy voice memo just the beginning? And most importantly, is Diddy ready for what might come next? But what do we know about Orlando and Diddy that's actually factual? Well, there's a couple of things. Lando has been all over the place these past few years. He's had a rough time. No sugarcoating it, between battling addiction, dealing with mental health issues, and getting arrested multiple times. It's been a roller coaster, and he's known for saying wild things about celebs, like really wild. He's called out some major names in ways that had folks either laughing, confused, or concerned for his well-being. But here's the thing, every now and then something he said starts to hit different after new info comes out. Now, let's bring Diddy into the mix. He's obviously been a power player in music for decades, but lately he's been making headlines for all the wrong reasons. The allegations against him are serious lawsuits claiming all kinds of even child exp, and then boom, in 2024 he was hit with federal charges and he's pleaded not guilty. But let's be real, the fact that he's even on trial in 2025 is huge, and these allegations go way back, like 1990s back. Some of the people accusing him say they were at the time. So where do Orlando and Diddy cross paths? Well, officially on paper, there's no solid proof that they ever worked together or even really knew each other. But here's what has happened. Orlando has publicly talked about Diddy multiple times in interviews and on social media, and the stuff he said is definitely out there. He's made some explosive allegations, and sure, a lot of people brushed it off because of his history and how erratic he can be. But now that Diddy's facing real legal heat, some of those old interviews and clips are resurfacing, and people are wondering if Orlando was really spiraling, or was he trying to expose something and nobody took him seriously. And it's not just that he named Diddy Orlando's been part of this wave of former child stars who've hinted at shady stuff going on behind the scenes in the entertainment industry, with Diddy now being accused of some very dark things by both men and women, some of whom it's not wild that people are putting two and two together and wondering if Orlando saw or experienced something he couldn't really say out loud. So, no, there's no concrete confirmed link between Orlando Brown and Diddy, beyond what Orlando said, but the timing and the details. And the fact that Orlando was talking about Diddy long before any lawsuits or federal charges dropped definitely got people second-guessing how quickly they dismissed him at the end of the day. Orlando's credibility has always been questioned because of his personal struggles, and Diddy's facing legal battles that have nothing to do with Orlando specifically, but given the overlap in themes, power industry secrets, and younger people caught up in it, it's no surprise that fans are starting to revisit those old interviews with a whole new perspective.
Opening statements are underway in the federal trial of Sean Diddy Combs. The prosecution in their opening statements laying out what they're calling decades covered up by power and influence.
So Diddy is in serious trouble, and it's looking like he's facing life in prison. The man who used to dance around in shiny suits on MTV is now sitting in a Manhattan federal courtroom being hit with some of the darkest charges imaginable. We're talking forced labor and even transportation for prostitute. This ain't just a scandal. It's a full-blown criminal case, and what makes it even crazier is the narrative prosecutors are laying out according to them. Diddy wasn't just throwing parties. He was running a whole underground operation for over 20 years. They're saying he used his fame and fortune to pull people into these wild-fueled events, aka, now let's talk about who's taking the stand. Cassie is the star witness in this whole thing. She's not just testifying about what she went through, she's naming names and spilling all kinds of disturbing details, like how Diddy forced her to with mail while he watched, and she said she had to use just to emotionally disconnect and get through it. Oh, and it doesn't stop there, Cassie said. There was an incident back in 2016 where Diddy put hands on her in a hotel room, and the whole thing was caught on video. The jury saw it. A cop, Kevin, backed up her story and confirmed seeing her bruised and shaken up. So this isn't just he said, she said. There's evidence, and it's not looking good for him. And get this, Male are also testifying. They're saying they were getting paid thousands to take part in these free coughs, and they witnessed and or at least heard it happening. On top of that, the prosecution has screenshots, texts, and even a whole binder of photos of the involved. Now, Diddy's legal team is doing what they can. They're basically saying, yeah, he was in some toxic relationships and might have done some things he regrets, but everything was consensual. They're trying to paint it all as part of a wild swinger lifestyle, like it was grown people doing grown things and now regretting it later. They're denying the criminal parts. No organized crime. No, but let's not forget this trial comes after Cassie filed that huge lawsuit in 2023, which was settled real quick and real quietly, and since then, over 50 lawsuits have dropped on Diddy's head. Most of them alleging misconduct. Like, this is no longer just a PR crisis, it's a full-on avalanche. If he's convicted, Diddy could be looking at a minimum of 15 years. It's possibly life in prison. One of the most powerful men in hip-hop, someone who shaped the entire culture, is now fighting for his freedom. His legacy already taking hits. His empire could crumble any day. Now the trial's still going, more witnesses are coming, and the media is camped outside that courtroom like it's the bet. Awards, we don't know how it's going to end, but what we do know, Diddy's not getting out of this untouched. One way or another, Diddy is facing a very, very bad situation.
Drika, how would you describe Cassie's demeanor when she took the stand today?
When she walked in there, Rachel, she had on a brown dress, form-fitting, visibly pregnant.
Just the other day, Cassie officially took the stand. Now, unfortunately, we don't have cameras or audio inside the courtroom, federal rules, but best believe the details are spilling, and we're keeping up with everything in real time. Cassie's testimony was heavy, emotional, and absolutely central to this case. She is considered victim number one, and honestly, if she hadn't filed that bombshell lawsuit back in November 2023, this case might not even exist now in court. Cassie's around 38 years old and very pregnant, like 8. 5 months she told the court she was with Diddy for 10 whole years, and there's a 17-year age gap between them, she talked. About how the relationship started off but turned dark fast. There were arguments that often led to physical dragging, bruising, even being in the head if she was down, and she said she was frequently left with black eyes. One of the biggest bombshells, she broke down what those infamous freaks were according to Cassie. They involved Diddy hiring she could perform for him while he watched and directed the whole thing. Eventually, it wasn't just occasional, it became like a job for her. And guess what? A male performer already testified that he was hired by both Diddy and Cassie to sleep with her while Diddy watched. So this isn't just her word, there's corroboration, Cassie said. At first she was confused, nervous, but still in love. Over time, she says, Diddy completely controlled her life. She mentioned he allegedly had blackmail material videos of those freak-offs that he threatened to release if she ever crossed him. So while the defense is trying to argue this was all consensual and that she enjoyed it at times, Cassie's saying this was coercion, manipulation, and flat out, and that 2016 video, the hallway attack. Cassie testified that it happened right after a freak-off, which is major because it ties that violent incident directly to the claims it's not just DV. It's being used to support the charges now. Some folks are wondering, was Cassie truly coerced the entire time, or did she sometimes go along with it? That's the gray area the defense is pushing. They're saying she had a decade-long relationship, she stayed, she participated, she even hired people. But let's be real, just because someone stayed doesn't mean they weren't trapped. Power imbalance is a thing. Cassie didn't just fall in love with a man, she fell into a system where he held all the power he had, the money, the fame, and allegedly the leverage in the form of those blackmail tapes. And here's another thing: the prosecution had to get her on the stand quickly before she gives birth. One of the other victims is missing, so Cassie's testimony is the core of their case, right? Now they open strong first with the male performers testimony, then with Cassie, plus the security guard and that 2016 video. But best believe they're not done. Word is there are still 2 more victims waiting in the wings. So alongside Cassie, Orlando Brown is popping up as a key witness in this messy case. And y'all, he's not just talking, he's got receipts. We're talking voice memos, like actual audio recordings from weekends he spent at Diddy's properties. And these memos, they don't sound like random ramblings. They detail what went down at those events, who was there, how the guests moved around, what security did, and even weird coded language like heartbeat reset. Yes, that's literally what staff were saying during certain moments, and the prosecutors didn't just take his word for it. They matched the memos with router logs and smart lighting systems. Like this is some CSI-level digital forensics. So if Orlando said something happened at 217A, M in the red room, the text says, yeah, someone was there at that exact time. Now let's be clear, he's not the only one making these claims. His recordings are lining up with what Cassie and other witnesses have already said, so prosecutors are basically using his tapes to build this big, ugly puzzle of how the were allegedly orchestrated, monitored, and controlled. Oh, and here's a twist. The fallout from Orlando's recordings is already shaking up the industry. We're talking discussions around new rules at private parties, more security at industry events, and even anonymous hotlines being proposed to protect young people from these shady scenes. So this isn't just a Diddy problem anymore. It's touching the whole celebrity world. And it's a big but. You already know the defense is coming for him. They're saying he's unreliable, that he's had many public scandals, and that he might just be doing all this for attention or to save himself from other legal issues. They're basically painting him as a loose cannon who's just trying to stay relevant or cut a deal, and they might get some folks to question him. Orlando has had some rough moments publicly, but if the jury buys that his audio matches up with verified digital records, And other witness accounts, you can bet that Diddy will be in serious trouble upcoming days. The Diddy trial is far from over, and the next few days are looking even more intense. Cassie already took the stand and shook the courtroom with claims of years of A and those now infamous, but now it's time for the cross-examination. Diddy's legal team is expected to go in hard, trying to poke holes in her story, question her credibility, and paint her as a woman with something to gain, but she's not the only one lined up to testify. There are still law enforcement officials and additional alleged victims expected to take the stand. So this courtroom isn't cooling off anytime soon. The prosecution isn't done dropping receipts either. They've already played that shocking 2016 surveillance video where Diddy appears. Cassies pulled out incriminating texts. Now they're preparing to bring even more evidence, including digital records and possibly additional video or audio clips, all to build their case and solidify the timeline. Once that wraps, the defense finally gets their shot. Diddy's team is standing by with their own witnesses and arguments, and they're pushing a completely different narrative that all of this was part of a consensual adult lifestyle, not a criminal enterprise. They're hoping to reframe the situation and challenge how the evidence is being interpreted by the jury. As far as the timeline goes, the prosecution is expected to take about 3 weeks total, and the defense will likely need another week after that, since jury selection began on May 5th. We're looking at several more weeks before this trial even reaches a verdict, and don't expect any courtroom live streams. Cameras aren't allowed, so updates are coming strictly from reporters inside. And here's what's really at stake. If Diddy's convicted on all charges, he's potentially facing life behind bars. That's why this case is drawing so much attention, not just because of who's involved, but because of how serious the allegations really are. So as this trial pushes forward, expect Cassie's continued testimony, more witnesses stepping up, and the prosecution unloading whatever's left in their evidence vault before the defense finally gets to strike back. Every single day from here on out is going to be crucial, from Cassie's emotional testimony to the evidence that's still on deck. It's clear this case is way bigger than just one man, and with Diddy's team getting ready to clap back, the courtroom drama is about to hit another level. But what do you think? Do you believe the prosecution's case is strong enough to stick? Or do you think Diddy's defense is going to turn the tide? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this is one of those moments where everyone's perspective counts.